welcome to the Pathways to Success webinar series. This panel is our November panel, and it will be professional services focused. Today, we will have a 25 to 30-minute panelist discussion. We'll be able to answer some questions, and then we'll go into our live Q&A session. So feel free to put questions in the chat throughout the discussion, and we will get to them at the end. And they are moderated, so they won't show up initially, but once we approve them, they can go ahead and go into the Q&A. All right, so I'll go ahead and introduce myself first. My name is Lydia Beckstead. I'm the Economic Vitality Specialist at the Boulder Chamber, and I'll be facilitating our panel today. Our first panelist is Lydia White, Assistant Vice President and Branch Manager at Vectra Bank. Lydia White is a seasoned banking professional with over 18 years of experience in retail marketing, lending, and branch operations. She has had a proven track record of exceeding branch goals, leading teams, and facilitating multi-million-dollar loan production while actively contributing to community development and financial institution growth. Lydia is also a dedicated to community service, volunteering with nonprofits both in and outside of Boulder, and actively engaging with Boulder Chamber, Boulder Downtown Partnership, and Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce. Our next panelist is Emanuel Wilder, Executive Director of the Interview Institute at Watson Institute. Emanuel Wilder offers a unique approach and keen insight that helps clients master the ability to communicate their understanding of the word initiative to any employer and how to reimagine themselves as an authentic leader within this context. With a strong background in facilitation and curriculum design, Emanuel has spent countless hours codifying professional development formulas such as career purpose and indispensability, and is excited to present a paradigm that builds confidence, removes insecurities, and aids in the growth of career services teams across the country. Emanuel currently lives in Denver, enjoys thoughtful debate, critiquing film, and exploring new sushi restaurants, which is something I like to do as well. So we will stop sharing slides and go ahead and get into the first question. So we'll start with Lydia, if you can tell us about yourself, your background, and what your educational and professional experience has been leading up to your current career.
Yeah, so my name is Lydia White. I'm the branch manager here at Vectra Bank at our Boulder Canyon location. This is a brand new branch that we just established back in January. So my educational background includes a high school diploma. Over the years, I've worked my way up from entry-level positions, gaining the hands-on experience in banking operations, customer service, and leadership. That allowed me to kind of develop my broad skill set to where I'm at today.
Awesome. Thank you, Lydia. And Emanuel, I'll let you introduce yourself and your background as well.
Yeah, Emanuel Wilder, thanks again for the space, this forum. It's really beneficial to the members y'all are serving and the community at large. We need more of these. I'm the Career Accelerator Program Manager here at Watson Institute. And I think in that heading, the side work that I do that's grown a little smaller recently since being with Watson is Executive Director of the Interview Institute. So with Watson, it's really about my role to help people understand new career types, primarily in the banking industry. Spend a lot of time helping people. I try to demystify the sector. And I think to Lydia's point just now, you might not need tons and tons of credentials. You're going to learn them along the way. But to get started, you need the right attitude. And I spend a lot of my time coaching folks, finding different rising leaders, helping them in this career accelerator fellowship space so they can really understand the word initiative in a different light. So about me, I'm really excited to teach. I always find those opportunities to teach people how important it is to lead with initiative. And that's one of the hallmarks of my career thus far.
Awesome. Thank you, Emanuel. And we'll just start with you again for the second question. What was the path to your career what you expected it to be? If not, in what ways did the journey surprise you?
Is that for me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good question. Was it what I expected it to be? I think the path is only what you expect it to be if someone else lays one out for you, and then you know exactly what it is. that happens for people, that actually happened for apprentices thousands of years ago. Even to recently, if your dad was a farmer, you're going to be one. Just listen up, kid. And that was the whole thing. For me, though, yeah, my path wasn't laid out. And it's always a different journey than you might have envisioned. So, what I expected to be, I think I expected it to have less rejection along the way. I think that builds resilience, but I didn't expect it to be so competitive, Olivia, in the space of career services or my first actual, love, TV broadcasting. I wanted to be like Conan O'Brien and host a late night television show. And so after I kind of grew out of that, or grew differently, I should say, from that, working in the professional services space with the caveat of nonprofit and helping people find careers, develop on their careers. It was just really tough to get a foot in that door and to kind of, be taken as seriously as I wanted to be. So I think that was one of the things that kind of surprised me about my journey. Just being met with opposition and not afraid of it, not slighted by it in the least bit, but just being prepared, I think is something that being prepared to meet all those objections was kind of tough.
Yeah, I think that's important to bring up, and I think it's a lot of people don't want to talk about rejection or when they get rejected, but it happens to everybody, and it just shows that you can still be super successful. Lydia, I'd love to hear about the path on your career and how it surprised you.
Yeah, so I would have to say that the path to my career was not at all what I expected it. When I took, this position when I first started out 18 years ago, I went into banking not because I grew up going, oh, I want to be a banker when I grow up. I'm not sure that anybody has dreams to be a banker when they grow up. But I took this position, my first job, because I needed to support my family, and so that was an open position. And from there, it just kind of flourished into something that became my career. To Emanuel's point, I'm not sure if anyone's seen that movie, Dumb and Dumber, where they're speaking to the lady and they're asking, do I have a chance with you? And she says, 1 in a million. And he's like, so I have a chance. And I think that's where, that rejection comes in is I would say, yeah, absolutely. I agree with Emanuel when it comes to rejection, is you have to be prepared for that. And I was not as well. So I can absolutely agree with him there that you receive a lot of rejection and you honestly can't take it to heart. You have to be able to move forward, and maybe you didn't catch that person at the right time, but it will come, with patience and just pursuing them. So that would probably be the most, I would have to agree with him, one of the big surprises. And then I think as well as being in a leadership role, I would have never thought beginning in my banking career that I would be in a leadership role. And if somebody would have told me that, 18 years ago, I would have told them they've got the wrong person.
What changed about coming into that leadership role and actually thinking, oh, this is something that I'm actually good at and I can be successful at?
I would have to say the encouragement that I received I went through a divorce. I was at my same job doing pretty much all the same thing for the first 10 years. I had a few advances, but it was the majority of the same thing. And then I met my second husband, and he said, why haven't you advanced into something, bigger? And I said, well, I don't know. I just never gave it really any thought. And he says, you're capable, you're intelligent, you're good at your job, you do it well. And I do. He says, of course you do. Has nobody told you that? So it was from his encouragement and him supporting me and backing me up that I took that leap into a leadership role. And it was, again, the rejection. Nobody likes to be rejected. Nobody enjoys that. So it took a lot for me to take that risk and to apply for that position. And I wholeheartedly didn't think I was going to get it, but I did my homework. I did my research. I was prepped and ready to go. And here I am.
That's so awesome. And kind of building on that, do you see this, Lydia, as the final step in your career journey? How do you measure professional success, and what are your long-term career goals?
So I feel like my career journey is just beginning. So I advanced later than I had hoped because of fear, and solely fear, not because of my capabilities, but because I didn't know what I was essentially capable of at the time. So I've come to realize that there's always room for growth. My long-term goal, I'd have to say, to be continue advancing and taking on more responsibilities. So again, this is not my stopping point. I see myself going into another leadership role, but I do enjoy that. And I would have to say, as far as measuring my professional success, it's not just with me, myself, and my personal milestones. It's also the success of my team. So I measure that on how well I contribute to my team's growth and their achievements, as well as if they succeed, then I'm going to succeed. So that's huge for me.
Yeah, that's great. And Emmanuel, you talked a little bit about the work that you do on the side with coaching professionals and stuff like that. Do you see what you do now as the final step in your career journey? And how do you measure your own professional success?
Great question. I think I think it's the final step. I think it's the first step to a new destination. I think for me, to Lee's point, we're always growing, we're always moving, but I'm not looking to retire, and I'm inspired by 80 plus year olds who continue to work because they're no longer working, they are pursuing purpose. And that's what drives them. It's not the paycheck, or it's not the advancement or leadership titles. It's something they've been destined, mandated to do. So I think this is just the first step to a totally kind of new destination. I'm excited to explore that journey. I think aligned to that is the second part of that question, measuring professional success. And for me, it's simple. As a coach, mentor, strategist, as a curriculum designer, I measure success based on the number of lives that are being transformed and transformed positively. More specific, how am I helping people think more critically about the world around them? Critical thinking is the one skill that eludes some of us. I always say this. Um, I'll say everybody's brilliant, everybody's super smart and talented and gifted. I actually do believe that, but I think 2% of the people are creative thinkers. So I think the 98% of us might fall into a lazy thinking category. And I think for me, success is getting people to jump out of that 98 percentile, really think creatively and strategically, and most important, critically about the world around them. That's where opportunities kind of lie. So, um, yeah, it's just, it's a new destination I'm headed to, but it's the first step in that.
Yeah, I love how you reframe that question of it's a new destination, not necessarily an end goal. And I hear like a lot of passion when you talk about your career and what you do. I'm wondering what helped you get to where you are in your current career, and what advice you have for others setting off in a similar direction. So you talked a little bit about being a critical thinker. Um, Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think to that end, there's not one solution that's going. Actually, I'll rephrase. Everybody has one solution, one formula that will help them get out of their unique situation and land to where they need to be. But we usually don't find it in a really neat little package. So, um, what's helped me is just really, using mental dexterity, like trying to think quickly, trying to think strategically and holistically, and really being curious, not for the sake of it. I know that's a really big buzzword post 2015. Like, yeah, be curious, but actually being curious for a reason. I think that's kind of helped me a lot. Always asking questions. For me, it's about asking questions no one else has kind of thought to ask, to get answers no one, ever really kind of considered. And really just digging deep, not in a annoying type, pressurized way, but really challenging why things exist the way they do. How helpful are they? I'm always getting new ideas about movies. I study broadcasting in school, so I'm always thinking about movies. I've written down hundreds of synopses and little treaties that one day might be a film, but that out of the box thinking, Olivia, is critical because it kind of helped me kind of get to where I am. And build some things that might not have happened without that solid thinking approach. And then what advice would I have for others who want to set off in that similar direction? Just, yeah, continuing to challenge and push yourself, make friends with rejection. I think that's something I've learned to do over the years, like make friends with that monster, because if you can do that, then you can expect rejection to come. You know how to handle it, and then you can overcome it easily. Lydia's learned this in sales in the bank. I mean, every day she had to start off and get through the nose, and they'll still come, but she handles them so much differently. I'm curious to see how she'll kind of answer this prompt. This is a good question.
Yeah, definitely. Lydia, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I think I made it a priority to surround myself with people that I wanted to learn from. So if I saw the position they were in and it had any interest to me, then that I inspired to be, or I wanted to follow in their footsteps. I observed, and to Emmanuel's point, I asked questions. I wasn't afraid to ask questions. I absorbed everything that they would teach me. And I think that's vital as well, as you don't be afraid to ask those questions. My advice for others, I would say, is if they're looking to get into a similar direction, is don't be afraid to start at an entry level position, even if you feel like you're overqualified. Every role, no matter how small, it's a stepping stone to something, bigger and greater. And that's how I got to where I was, is starting out as a teller and working my way up. So don't be afraid to do the work. But I think it's important that, again, when you're surrounding yourself around those people, ask the questions. Ask them, how do they get there? Do they like their job? What do they like about it? How they get to where they are? Be inquisitive. That's very vital.
Awesome, thank you. All right, we'll move into some more industry and position specific questions. Lydia, I'd love to hear if you can identify some hard to fill positions in your industry, and what are some of the key skills that these positions require?
So I'd say one of the harder to fill positions in our industry would have to be our entry level tellers. It's largely due to typically promotions, because again, that is one of our first entry level positions here. But it's also because the entry level positions don't always offer that ideal pay or work schedule that someone is looking for. So I would have to say some of the skills would have to be that the tellers need to be strong in their customer service skills, attention to detail, the ability to handle cash accurately, and they need to be adaptable and be able to work under pressure when dealing with customers, because you're not going to get, you're always going to get the nice ones. So I think that's important when you're working with customers face to face.
Yeah, for sure. And Emanuel, I don't know if you can speak to the industry more broadly, because I know it's not exactly hard to fill positions in your specific at Watson, but maybe some of the positions that you guys help to fill.
Yeah, and even from the nonprofit sector and workforce development in whole, I think people who are interested in that space, some of those hard to fill roles would fall under, really competent managers. It's really tough to find people in the nonprofit workforce space who are, really able to consider lots of options and outcomes and meet KPIs or key performance indicators and really wear a multitude of hats, from fundraising to curriculum design to training to management to board meetings. And it's one of those kind of full breath roles. It's one of those full blown gospels of a role that really tests all of your endurance. And I think those are kind of hard to fill. To the next back end of that, what's hard to fill on the career accelerator side and how we work with great partners like Vectra and in that space. I think Lydia answered it. Maybe some of those entry level roles for a lot of different reasons. I think the big one to overcome is, again, demystifying the sector. A lot of folks who are working in retail right now are going to be fantastic on Lydia's team, but they're never going to consider Vectra as a place they can land or thrive, because their whole thing is, I don't have the fancy degree, I don't know the connections, money is kind of esoteric and out there, I'm not the right fit. I don't know what to say, and I can't handle millions of dollars and stuff. And I think that mentality is really hard to overcome. And I think Lydia gave some really key skills that will help them overcome it and what they really need to do in order to thrive in an entry level.
Yeah, I love that you talk about transferable skills. Even if you work in retail, you may be actually great in the banking industry or in the professional services industry because you have that customer service background. And to that end, I'd love to hear about from both of you how important soft skills are in your industry. And do you have any tips on how to better develop these types of skills? And we can start with Emanuel.
Yes, so I love critical thinking as a key cornerstone skill of all different industry types. I think that's huge. I think a really big soft skill in helping to manage others and build programs like the Career Accelerator and work with different bank partners, pretty soon to be different industry partners, is the ability to sell. I don't want to take any of Lydia's thunder if she was going to go that route, but selling can be a hard skill and a soft skill. And trying to persuade people to join a program when a lot of times they think, to her point earlier, I've got what it takes already. I don't need to do entry level. To talk to a bank and convince them that we bring retention value to some of your needs. We bring fits and alignment to your hard to fill roles. And, people are getting pitched all the time. And so sales goes along with resilience and, overcoming objections and a lot of these soft kind of mental skills that really build character. So yeah, for me, it's really, really important that people in this space, the nonprofit world, have a thick skin, and that can happen with the skill of selling.
Awesome. And I'll pass it over to Lydia to talk a little bit more about soft skills.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with you, Manuel. Soft skills are absolutely essential in our industry. We can teach you banking. Here it's the basics. And so that's easy enough if you have a great leader who's willing to show you the ropes and teach you. But there are a lot of soft skills that we aren't able to teach you that you just have to come to you naturally. Are you adaptable? Are you empathetic? Do you have emotional intelligence? Do you have the drive and the grit? Do you want to move up? Are you happy, staying at an entry level, or do you want to, move up in the career, look at different paths? So I think those are things that we can't teach you. We can encourage you. We can lead that way, but ultimately it's up to that person and that candidate, to have those soft skills for us to be able to help them grow into their position. So. I think it's important too that they have honest communication as well. And that open line of communication is going to help us, teach them as well as when they are communicating with our clients. And to Emmanuel's point, as far as the sales go, that's very vital as well. You have to have that personal, connection with people, and that's so hard nowadays to do. But it is very important that you have that face-to-face interactions when you're dealing with our clients.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. You are kind of alluding to a lot of opportunity at Vectra to move into higher positions from an entry level role. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about the company culture at Vectra, and what sets it apart from other organizations that you've worked with or that you know of.
Yeah, so I could probably recite, our core values on the website, but I'll leave that to everybody to go check out. What I will say about Vectra and what sets us apart is that in all the 18 years that I've been working, at other banks, Vectra is wholeheartedly the only place that genuinely cares about my development and my career advancement. From when I expressed that I wanted to go into a higher level of leadership, they put me on a development plan. They put me in a program. They put me in lending programs as well, to help me get that leg up that I would need to advance to the next level. From mock interviews to shadowing to working with our partners, in different areas to ensure that it's something that I wanted to do. So I would say, if you want to advance within Vectra Bank, there is the possibility, and there's absolutely other avenues. You don't necessarily have to go into, banking. And I think that's probably a misconception when people think about, a bank is like, oh, well, you hand out money and you come to get a car loan, every once in a while. But that's not the case. There are so many other avenues that you can do when it comes to a financial institution, whether it's HR, tech, marketing. We have commercial mortgage, wealth, the trust. So there's so many avenues that you're able to take. And it's not just the banking portion of it.
Yeah, I love that. And just along those lines, Emanuel, do you look for specific aspects of company culture, like existing training programs, employee growth opportunities, all those things that Lydia mentioned, when you're partnering with a business?
All those things are really important. A lot of times, though, they're just nominal, meaning just name only, and there's not a lot of energy behind those. So for me, I really like to ask tough questions to leaders. And that is, I know you have a vision for your company. I know you have a mission, but how have those things evolved? How has the vision changed from the founders' inception of it 30, 40, 100 years ago? How is the vision changing? Because if vision doesn't change, if it's the same mantra or slogan or outlook for the last decade or more, this doesn't mean it's not a great place to partner, but it does mean they have a stagnant view of vision and next steps, which means now they're going to treat some of their own fellows and the rising talent with a very stagnant lens as well. So we're looking for those organizations whose culture is dynamic, that encourages growth, that really understands growth through the lens of people who will apply initiative to their futures. And those are the really good companies. My friend said it well a month ago. Every company has really cool values. No company ever says we want to suck, we want to be horrible, we don't like customers. Everyone's got loyalty and integrity and trust. Everyone has really cool words. There's a restaurant in Chicago called Ed DeBevick's that actually, and there might be some out here, people on the call might know, but they build their brand on treating you poorly. So it's a big kind of dinner show, but you walk in, they'll throw a fork at you. You ask that you want to give your order, but they'll say, I'll do it later, and they'll walk away. And they're just really mean and rude. That's their whole thing. So that's the only company that wants to be rude for a kind of novelty reason. But the rest want to be great. So what I do is I just try to gently push and try to figure out, what does that kind of vision expansion and evolution look like for the company as a whole? And then your leadership. How strong are your mentors? How involved are they? How much do they share? Great mentors share a lot. The sad thing is, we feel sometimes if we share too much, that person will take our job, our idea, our spark, our energy. When really, we should have so much inside that there's not even enough time to give it all away. And we shouldn't fear that people will take these anecdotes and thrive. We should appreciate the fact that we have them to give in the first place. If businesses talk that way, I think it's a great culture and it's a great place for us to partner.
That's amazing. Thank you. Lydia, you touched on it a little bit already, but in terms of misconceptions, what are some that you held personally before entering your industry that folks thinking about going into the same field might want to be aware of?
I think the biggest misconception for banking for myself would be that you have to be good at math. I am horrible at math. Listen, so my math teacher, her name was Mrs. McMath, and she would attest to that and say, "Oh, how did she get a banking job? How was she in the role she's in? She was horrible at math." That's probably a big misconception. Luckily, now we have computers and technology to do all of the the figuring for us, and when we're looking at underwriting. But I think the misconception is banking is just you do a transaction, and it's where you hold your paycheck, and where you spend it, and that's it, but there are so many other things that we're able to assist you with at our financial institution, whether it's from mortgages to if you come into some funds, or you're looking to save, or you want to open up a credit card to build your credit up. We have those for the younger generations. we give out financial advice, to set you up for success as well. So we're not just looking to hold your paycheck, and then wish you good luck and hope you know how to spend it. So we walk you through that as well. And that's something that we are very committed here at Vectra, is helping the youth succeed and making sure that they're on the right path, as well as continuing the relationships with them. So that when they grow, we grow with them, and vice versa.
Awesome, thank you. And Emanuel, I'm wondering, do you hear misconceptions from students you work with, or did you have any yourself that you kind of had to peel back and break down?
Yeah, I mean, going into the space around human capital and helping people expand horizons and actualize real potential, it can be real tough. I think the biggest misconception for anyone who wants to sit in this chair and do this work is that people actually want to grow. I think the biggest misconception is that people actually, that you might have, is that people actually want to be leaders, and they want to be world changers, and they want to transform industry, and they want to be captains. Because I had to learn about 10 years ago, that's not really the case. Some people don't want, 6 zeros after their net worth. Some people don't want 12 zeros after their net worth statement. And some are just fine with living in a smaller space. That bothered me for a long time, because I said, no, we can all have big potential. We can all be really great. I don't know what that looks like. I haven't figured that out. I'm just saying that's a misconception, that people want better for themselves, because sometimes they don't, and then sometimes they actually do. It's just their better looks different than what you might have imagined for them. So I learned a lot through that.
I'm wondering if you have like a story or an example of that, because I think that's so interesting and so true, of like, thinking that everyone wants better for themselves, but it actually looks different for each person.
I'll give an anecdote. There's a lot of different examples, but one anecdote is just how we understand, that word initiative. And so when I say the word initiative to a 3-year-old, when I say, "Hey, John, go show initiative, go do something, man." He takes his little 3-year-old self, he goes to a toy box, he starts getting a bunch of random toys, and he gets some Legos, and he starts building this weird tower. And then he throws finger paint all over it, and he tells mom and dad, "Look what I did." And mom and dad are happy because he took initiative, he built a weird tower. That's his level of application. That's how a 3-year-old understands it. When I talk to a single parent and I say, "What is initiative to you? What does it mean? What does it look like?" They're going to say, "I have to get 3 jobs. I have to put my kids in a position to win. I can't trust the system. I have to do it myself. I'll create things, but we will win. And my life is for them." And that's a fantastic application of initiative. Some of us are not here, had that single parent not had that understanding of initiative. But Olivia, to the final point, when I say the word initiative to Dr. King, to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, to Elon Musk, to Napoleon Caesar, to Alexander the Great, to Amelia Earhart, they hear the word initiative literally, and they're going to take over the world. Now, we don't want to do that, but I think the point in bringing that up is that's how some people hear it at all different levels, and that's how they think about themselves, Olivia. And there's maybe everyone doesn't think about themselves as an Alexander the Great, or they have this mantle of Napoleon Bonaparte to conquer. And some, I don't want us to have a 3-year-old application either. Like, let's just finger paint and make a mess. But there's a whole scope in between those layers. And I had to learn, while I'm trying to be like Napoleon, I won't hurt folks. I'm not going to do world domination. But some might not. And I have a long way to go and continue to understand that paradigm. But that might be the best way to kind of explain it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Lydia, I'm wondering, what are some of the best resources for job seekers wanting to learn more about working in banking and professional services? And do you wish you had access to any resources during your education or job search that you didn't have access to?
Well, other than connecting with Emanuel at the Watson Institution, so there's that. I'd have to say maybe look at your online career portals, your Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn. I'd also recommend reaching out directly to the people who are in the roles that you're interested in. Ask them, how did they get to where they did? Where did they start? Things that they would have done differently. Those conversations can provide some insights, and maybe they might have some insight to future jobs that are posting. That they could maybe help you with, or kind of assist you into going down the right path for it. I wish I would have had those when I was growing up. I also wish I would have had, the strength to ask those people. I never did. Looking back on it, I'm not sure why I didn't. Maybe out of fear that maybe they thought, well, why are you, stay in the teller line? What are you doing? You'll never have my job, but I think it's important to ask those people, if you're interested in their position, how did they get there? What got them there? And what resources did they use? I think that's very vital to going forward to the next step in your career.
Awesome. And just to that point, about asking questions and finding people to give you the right answers, did you ever have a mentor, like formal or informal, when you started your career or throughout your career? And can you speak about the impact of mentorship in a person's early career? Maybe you're a mentor to someone right now.
So I did not have a mentor growing in my career. In the banking industry, when I first started out, it was a bit of it's a man's world. There were men all around the table. So I didn't see a lot of women in those upper level management positions. And maybe that was on my part for not asking these men, because I imagine they probably would have been happy to mentor me and give me that advice that I was so desperately looking for. As I grew into my role, and now I have a few mentors that I absolutely look up to, that are vital to my success. They give me those encouraging words. They give me the advice that I'm looking for, and they set me straight. They tell me this is what I would do, or this is what I wouldn't do, and this is where you need to be, and this is in introductions, past experiences, lessons learned. So that's very important to have that person. And it's very important to seek that person out very young in your career. It will save you so much work and lost time if you're able to have somebody to kind of go with you on that path and they've already been there.
Awesome. Thank you. So this is for both of you, and we'll start with Emanuel. Can you tell us more about the current fellowship or apprenticeship program and how Vectra and Watson are actually working together on this program?
Yeah. Our program, we put a lot of thought and time into making sure it's relevant material that our fellows, that the Vectra and Alpine fellows are learning in real time. And so our program is designed to give real strength to the fellows. For example, what I get most jaded by and most disgruntled with are postings from Google that says the 5 steps to service, or the 3 C's of sales, or the four steps to building a relation. And they're very vanilla kind of tactics. Sure, the bare bones of it might work, but there's no nuance, there's no kind of detail around what that looks like. And my job and our coursework is to get students to think like Lydia, to get students to think like Lydia's boss. They won't do it in the time that we have, but we can plant those seeds. I'm not asking them to be Lydia and company. I want them to think that way. How do you approach problems? Because with her experience, with her insight, she's going to look at a problem, a challenge, very differently than a new level hire. And I want them to kind of accelerate to that point. So we're building some real curriculum items that we hope to really challenge a fellow's existing kind of take on the world around them, and how do they expand that out. So we're doing a lot of that. We're listening to what our partners need. We are building curriculum around that. We are really helping people understand career purposes as best we can.
Yeah, awesome. I think for myself, when Emanuel and I first had that conversation about what what his program is about and what it means, it really hit home for me because I didn't have that college education. So I had to really, crawl my way, into the position that I'm in now. I had to work harder than what I think most people with that college degree would have. I had to really push through. I had to show dedication, and I had to have that grit. And so I think, when he came to me with this, it was of importance because I realized what that is when you walk in that door and you want the job and you need that job and you're willing to put in the work and the effort, and someone says, oh, you don't have that college education, or you don't have enough, in retail sales, or, it's just, you don't have that, you don't have all of the credentials that we're looking for. But there's something there, when you have somebody who really wants that job and who's willing to put in that work, there's spark about them. I know that I had that spark. And so that's what I tend to look for when I do the interviews with potential employees is what is their, what's their spark, what's their superpower? What are they good at? What can I show them and what can they show me? And how much are they willing to put in that work? College is great. It's fantastic. I would never discourage anybody from doing it, but don't let that discourage you from applying for these positions. You're perfectly capable of. I'm proof of that. You put in the extra work, and if you're willing to do it, you can get there. And if you have somebody like Emanuel and his team to guide you through that, that's even better.
Yeah, that's great. And Emanuel, I'm wondering if you can expand, just because there might be some students on the call, how does Watson Career Accelerator Fellowship and Apprenticeship Program support young adults in their career journey?
I think the main thing we're doing is trying to give them insight, really helping them use real world insight to accelerate their growth from 20 something or 30 something who's just starting out to really think about the world as that experienced leader would. So we do that in a few ways. First, helping folks navigate corporate culture. There is a culture that is corporate and it looks differently than what they might have been used to. So I'm really excited to help people learn, for example, in the corporate space, how to network. A lot of times we'll show up to an event, we'll have some cheese and crackers, we'll meet a nice person, we'll take a business card, we might give one out, and we think we've solidified or demonstrated networking, and we haven't. Like that's just eating free food. So showing people how to understand how to network, I think that's critical. I think leadership identity, the language of leadership, all leaders that are good, they discourse, they communicate at a certain level. It's not about jargon and big words. It's about intent. It's about clarity. It's about persuasion. They're all able to do it right away. Leaders when they walk into space. And so we're able to help our rising talent appreciate their own unique leadership cues. Lydia calls them superpowers. That's what they have. The tragedy in life is going through it and not understanding what those superpowers were, not understanding what that career purpose looked like, not understanding that you had a unique ability that the city of Boulder didn't have, that some of the former leaders of major Fortune 500s wish they had, but you have it. The thing is, you're going to pass through life and you might not figure it out. Our accelerator program is trying to do that. I think last point to that end, we're trying to help people understand their most important commodity. And I think time is the second most important. The most important is perspective, how you see the world. It's how you see it that's what matters the most. We're trying to get people to see it in a certain way. I'll end with this because I don't want to go too long. It's not a production that's your value. It's not what you produce. Anybody can do what you do way better than you. This world has 8 billion people in it. I can find 1,000 people who can do what I do a lot better than I do it and have better suits. Now, maybe not 1,000, but just a few who have better clothes. The point, though, is not about what I produce. AI can produce more than anybody. It's how I see the world. It's what did I see that other people missed? That's what the accelerator is about. When you look at computer technicians or IT developers or software engineers, there's 1 million in the country. They can all do the same thing. They can all code. They can all build. They can all do great things. But how many Mark Zuckerbergs are there? There's one. He saw a vision. He had an idea for something no one else saw. And that's why he's the fourth richest person in the world. It's not about money. It's about how do you make an impact. But having $98 billion, Olivia, helps you make a really great impact. So
That's a great closing to our conversation. So we will open the chat for Q&A. And if Dara wants to just display that directions to access Q&A on the screen. And we do have one question. What is your favorite part of your job? And maybe we'll go with what's your least favorite part of your job as well. So we can start with Lydia.
I would have to say my most favorite part of my job is I get to meet new people every day. Every day. It's there's somebody new that walks in that door, or when I'm out networking and introducing myself to new faces. So that means that it's never a dull moment. Banking is not as boring as people think it is. So there's something new always happening. With that, I will say that the least favorite is there's always things happening and you're not always prepared for them. So you have to take them as they come. Sometimes you don't always get the happy customers that walk in the door, and that's just something that you have to deal with. But I think that's with any job, right? I mean, we all have those difficult, people that we have to deal with. And so it's just a matter of how you handle them. Are you understanding with them? Are you being empathetic with them to help solve their situation, and calm them down and come to a solution together? So that would probably be my biggest thing. My other thing that I really do enjoy about my job is I work with a great team. I love my team, and it shows. It shows. We honestly have a great time here. We all connect. When I hired my new team, I picked them and ensured that they would all, vibe together, that we would all have that connection together, and that we could work, here, because we're with each other more than we are with our family. So it's important for us to all have that connection. So, and I love the team that I have, and I love all the people that I work with, all of my partners as well. They're all wonderful. So.
Awesome. I think you're breaking down all of the misconceptions about banking today. So I love that. Emanuel, what about you?
Favorite thing about my role, I think, being able to build curriculum, having an open canvas that can address some of the needs that I think young leaders, young aspiring talent really need to have filled. And I think being creative and every day, building programs, talking points, helping people really actualize their potential. That's the most important thing for me, giving people an aha moment or extracting talent that they have. It's not so much about me giving them stuff and telling them stuff. The great leaders and coaches pull the stuff out. I think that's what's really, really cool. There's a cool Socratic method to that, a story that Socrates had about 3,000 years ago. But without getting into that, it's cool to see people grow with just extraction. I think the tough part about this, I think speed, urgency. It's hard to sometimes, align the vision to what you have of a program like this in its full capacity, to align that with the speed at which it actually does grow. And so it takes time. A lot of patience is tough for people like me who have big goals and high aspirations, but it's something that you just have to wait and cultivate and let happen naturally. But building the right structures, planting the right seeds can always do that.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, last question. This is kind of just a fun one. If you were going to work in another career, what would it be? And I think, Emanuel, you mentioned it at the beginning.
Yeah, real quick, maybe a talk show host. I always wanted to be like Conan O'Brien. I used to work for Oprah Winfrey years ago, so my resume has that on there. I think talk show host would be great, and I would love to do that if I wasn't doing this.
Awesome. Lydia?
Emanuel, you have the voice for it, I have to say.
You
have the
notice,
voice for it.
Notice how she didn't say face, which is great. I love it. Thank you.
You're both. You'd be great at it.
Thank you.
I always kid with my husband, and I always I think I would make a great stay-at-home dog mom. Like, that's just, so that would be like my ideal job. But no, I've always wanted to go into social working. I think about it often still to this day. but I set my career path long ago, and I've been doing this for so long. So, and I enjoy it. So maybe in a later life I'll look at doing it. But I think it's a very noble job. It's very underpaid, underappreciated. So that's something that I would definitely look at doing if I wasn't doing this now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and having this conversation with us. The last thing, if attendees would like to fill out our post survey, let us know what you thought about the panel, help us make improvements. This is really good information for us. But from here, I will go ahead and end the meeting. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Emanuel.
Thank you all.